Dave, you want an electrician? No, I'll take care of it.
I've always been fascinated by India, but what I hear more and more these days is how it will soon be the most populous nation on Earth. For me, the question is, what's it going to mean for climate change?
Excuse me, Kevin, could you go a little faster? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's a joke. I know. It's just no. Please don't go faster. What is that? What is?
Those are electricity wires.
And there's electricity going through there now.
Right now, yeah.
Just one snarl is worse than the next. Honest to God, what are you going to do?
Look, this infrastructure has to be modernized, right?
Oh, you think? We want to modernize this a little. What? Just maybe a coat of paint.
But here's what's happening. Look, all this power is coming from the grid, right? 60% of that power capacity is coal. But this infrastructure has not been upgraded for a very, very long time.
Right.
Right? So about 30% of what we're generating is getting lost in transmission. So when we lose the electricity in the transmission, we're having to burn more coal for the same amount of electricity.
And that affects the climate.
That affects the climate.
But that's not all. The economy is also booming here. India is already the third largest consumer of coal, right behind the U.S. and China. And to feed its growth, India plans to burn twice as much of it. Coal is the single biggest contributor to climate change. This is a problem not only for them, but for the entire planet.
It's interesting.
The Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, seems determined to find a solution using solar power. But can he pull it off before it's too late?
Okay, so I'm not really supposed to be up here, but I was told there's something I have to see. Oh, wow. God. I'm on the roof of the Mandalay Bay Resort in Las Vegas. You would never know this was up here. Ever since I first learned about solar energy, I've loved the idea that the sun could provide us with all the electricity we need. But in Nevada, where solar has been growing rapidly, there's actually a huge battle unfolding over rooftop solar. A battle that could affect the rest of the country. So what's going on here? Who's trying to block the sun? My first clue came from an insider, a former CEO in the energy industry.
Nationwide, there's less than 1 million American homes that have solar on the roof right now. And people say there's roughly 55 million American homes that should.
Why is that? What's stopping it?
Well, if you think about it, energy worldwide is a $6 trillion a year business, and the first goal of the people in that industry are to make sure that it continues to be a $6 trillion a year business. So their economic interest is huge. Now, some states have started to do solar, others aren't doing it at all.
Why?
The powers that be in those states are resisting. They don't want it.
If he's right, what does this mean for solar's future?
God damn it. Hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Letterman.
Pleasure to see you.
How may I assist you?
I was in my room
Okay.
a moment ago. I was using the hair dryer. I was drying my beard, and all of a sudden everything stopped.
Yes.
And then everything comes back on.
Unfortunately, we do have frequent power outages.
So that was a power outage.
Yes.
And how, when you say frequently, how often?
Well, at least about 4 to 6 times a day.
4 to 6 times a day.
But you don't need to worry. We
need
have
to
a
worry.
full power backup. And
What is the power backup?
we do have a generator.
A generator? Powering a big hotel on a daily basis? Well, that's something I didn't expect. Today I'm meeting Indian filmmaker Iqbal Kidwai, and he's taken me on a tour of New Delhi to show me all the problems that come with use of generators.
This is
What neighborhood is this?
this Connaught Place, sir.
A huge commercial center.
Huge commercial center.
So as we're walking around, I see a tailor shop, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to try to get one of those long shirts that I see people in India wearing.
Well, you know what I'm interested in are the long
Kurta.
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 It's uniform for the politicians.
So the prime minister would wear.
Yes, he would. Modi is a big trendsetter actually in terms of fashion.
Oh, is
the
that-
Modi
is that right?
jacket and the Modi kurta has become quite a fashion statement.
You want to measure me, and
Sure.
we'll go. Are you going to do the measuring?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any disrobing?
No, not at all.
Oh. Have you ever seen a more powerfully built man? Is it possible to get my name across the back? That'd be
You
good.
can have it embroidered.
Yeah, that would be very nice.
Should I write David Letterman?
Just D. Letterman. Wait, you know what? Letterman. You know what? I'm sorry. Dave.
Okay, only David. That's
Yes, thank you.
I'm excited to get my kurta in a couple of days, but meanwhile, Iqbal gets me back to the task at hand.
We have a bit of time up there, sorry. It's not all right. Yep, this way, turn and up the stairs.
All right. Oh my. What are these giant things?
That, sir, is what we need to power ourselves. Any of those green things.
These are generators,
These are
right?
generators.
Yeah,
All
there's
around,
several
all the
over there.
Green
Yes.
ones and the yellow ones.
As far as you can see, for 360 degrees, that guy's got his car horn hooked up to a generator.
Back home, we use generators when a tree falls on a line, but here, power failures seem to be pretty routine.
The power, when it goes, it can come back in 2 minutes, it can come back in 20.
Sure.
So when you're not sure, you need a backup.
Iqbal tells me these generators are all powered by diesel and pour huge quantities of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And here's the really scary thing. India has enough backup generators to power all of Australia. A grid powered by coal, inefficiently run with power outages left and right, all requiring more coal. And on top of that, these diesel generators are warming the planet even more. But why can't India's power come from a cleaner and more efficient source, like solar? That's actually what India is trying to do.
buddy. Don't change. Be good, dude. Bye, guys.
Oh, I'm gonna miss you guys. You were amazing.
I'm learning that Sunrun had been one of the top performing solar companies in Nevada, and now it's in the process of shutting down most of their operations here.
So this entire warehouse was filled with solar panels?
Solar panels and all the components you would ever need to build them. We were actually installing more solar from this warehouse than any warehouse in the whole company.
Wow.
Nationwide. This was
Nationwide.
the top performing warehouse nationwide.
And how many states are you in?
We're in about 15 states. To see it as a ghost town like this is terribly sad.
How could a thriving company disappear virtually overnight? What's going on here in Nevada?
Some say it's a no-brainer to get solar energy. But as of today, some of the biggest players say their industry could collapse.
Customers of solar power companies may see a more expensive bill soon.
NV Energy proposed increasing their service fee for solar
Now I'm
customers.
starting to get the picture. This fight is about residential rooftop solar. It's been taking off all over the U.S., and Nevada had been one of the fastest growing markets. Thousands of people here were installing solar panels on their roofs and saving money on their electric bills. But the utility company, NV Energy, claimed rooftop solar customers were benefiting at the expense of non-solar customers. The utility got approval to cancel incentives for solar and tack on new and substantial fees. This made rooftop solar suddenly far too expensive.
The 3 members of the PUC are at the center of a solar firestorm.
Angered thousands of customers who'd invested in solar and prompted layoffs.
Now this whole thing is shot out of the water. I mean, talk about betrayal.
My name is Teddy Stanowski. I am a solar customer, homeowner, and until last Wednesday was a solar employee for Sunrun. And Commissioner, you claim that you have not seen any evidence of hardship or job loss. Well, the truth is I am the evidence. We are the evidence.
What these guys are doing is wrong.
These are people who have been laid off by the extreme actions of the commissioners that are inside this building. They've eliminated these jobs and the jobs of thousands of other people across the state.
So, what happened with solar in Nevada? How does this end up an empty office?
Well, the Public Utilities Commission, who just wrote the recent decision, what that decision did was it made it completely uneconomic for anyone to go solar. And so the next day after that decision, there was simply nothing to sell. And that's why we've seen layoffs, not just our company, but every solar company in the state.
So who is this? Who is this commission? What's the name of it?
It's called the Public Utilities Commission.
And their job is to look out for...
Their job is to look out for all ratepayers. It's to look out for every Nevadan. And unfortunately what they did in this case is they only looked out for the utility.
So who are they?
There's a lot of sordid ties here. Maybe we draw it out on something if we could find, if you draw on a cardboard box, right? All right. Listen, Governor Sandoval is in charge. He is at the top of the pyramid. Okay. Now, Governor Sandoval himself used to be a lawyer for the very utility interest that we're talking about here. So this is a Berkshire Hathaway owned utility. Okay. At the same time, he appoints the regulators, the commissioners. There's 3 of these folks.
Just 3.
Just 3, and Sandoval appoints these commissioners. The people that link it all together are utility lobbyists, of course, sit in the middle, and they are connected to everyone. The 2 top utility lobbyists are actually Sandoval's closest political advisors. They've been friends since college. They convinced him to run for office. They served on his campaigns. It's pretty powerful people.
Yeah. It turns out, before he was elected, Governor Sandoval did indeed work for the utility shareholders of Nevada, supporting NV Energy's bids to raise electricity rates. And 2 of NV Energy's top lobbyists, Peter Ernaud and Greg Ferraro, have made no secret about their close relationships with the governor. But Brian tells me what's happening in Nevada is just the half of it. There's a much bigger campaign to slow down the rise of rooftop solar across the U.S., and I need to know about it.
We are heading into the more rural, less developed, let's say, less developed areas of the world. The place that we are going to, we will find villages completely off-grid, like this village here.
Wow.
Completely and off-grid, and sure, they've got power lines going past them, but they're not connected.
It's becoming clear when it comes to energy, there's another side of India I need to see.
People without money can't buy generators, so they have to depend on all kinds of kindling on firewood or kerosene lamps, like this village here.
After a long drive, we come to a small village in the state of Uttar Pradesh.
Oh my.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Hello, excuse me, hello. Do you mind if I sit down?
Okay, please.
I want you to, first of all, names. What is your name?
Komal.
Beautiful name. Your name?
Kansai.
And your name?
Akansha.
Hey, my name is Dave. How old are you?
Teen.
He's about 12 years old.
12 years old. I have a son, 12 years old. It looks to me like you're studying. You're doing school work, is that correct?
School ki padhai kar rahe beta?
Ji.
And you're doing it with this for light. What is that?
It's called a dibbi.
And what is it burning?
Okay, they burn it with kerosene oil.
Do we have electricity here in the village, in the house, anywhere?
नहीं बत्ती जो होती जो डिब्बी को जलाते हैं मिट्टी के तेल से अब ये जो है मिट्टी के तेल से ये तो नशीला धुआं है ये बच्चे पढ़ते हैं तो सो जाते हैं इसका जो जहरीला धुआं है
Does it bother you, the three of you, to
To breathe the fumes, does that bother you?
सांस लेने में तकलीफ होती है
होती है ये
तकलीफ होती है।
सांस में भाई नसना रूम जाते हैं, कालापन आ जाता है। आप अगर ये धुआं जहरीला नहीं थी, बच्चे की क्यों उन्नत नहीं है, क्यों नहीं बढ़ता, क्यों इसके दहीने पकड़।
How long will this go on? When will you get electricity? Another year? Another 5 years? How long do you think it will be?
लग तो रहा है कि अब जब जानकारी हो रही तो जल्दी हो जाएगी।
आपका परिवार बहुत अच्छा है।
What do you want to do when you grow up? What kind of
बड़े
things?
होकर क्या करना चाहते हो तुम लोग?
सर मुझे टीचर बनना है।
She wants to become a teacher.
A teacher. How about you? Good. And then you?
तुमको क्या बनेगा?
नहीं, डांसिंग करनी है।
Dancing. She wants to become a dancer in the movies.
Oh, very nice. Those are all wonderful thoughts, hopes, and ideas for your lives. Before coming here, I never imagined kids having to breathe in toxic kerosene fumes just to do their homework. But there are 300 million others in India that live just like this, with no access to any power at all. 300 million people, basically the population of the United States. It's not just an energy problem, it's a human problem. Something has to change.
It's shocking to learn that rooftop solar has so many enemies here in Nevada. But Brian Miller says there are even bigger forces at play.
Let me just tell you what this fight's about. In one word, this fight is about competition. Rooftop solar is the first form of competition that utilities have ever faced. And so the utility strategy is to quietly go to the legislators and get them to kill solar under the cover of darkness.
Well, how do you know all of that?
I actually used to work at the largest utility in the country when these modern rooftop solar wars started, and it was
really
yeah, I did. I was at the time in a progressive, forward-thinking utility that was actually trying to develop solar, and then they got bought by an even bigger utility. It became the largest utility in the country, and my new bosses came to me one day and said, listen, I know you think your job was to promote renewables. Your new job in this newly formed company is to eliminate all renewables at all costs, and specifically rooftop solar.
That's crazy.
It was pretty crazy. It was a pretty surreal experience. And I said, well, I'm sort of accidentally in the middle of the Death Star here. I should probably figure out how the thing works before I leave. And I was in internal discussions where they plotted the campaigns on these issues.
And what were some of the tactics discussed?
Yeah. Well, specifically, the idea was that all of our team of lobbyists would go and fan across the country and lobby against renewable energy policies, specifically rooftop solar policies. So
and you were asked?
I was asked to do that too.
Wow.
I think what surprised me the most is being in a fossil fuel company that was that big. I was like awed at their extent of political influence. I mean, it was just stunning. I remember at one point in a state capitol that the utility had dozens of paid lobbyists on retainer in this little capitol. What they would actually do, and utilities across the country do this, we run into it all the time, is they will go to lobbyists in town and give them a retainer of $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 and say, we are paying you not to work. We are just going to give you this money. As long as you agree not to work for renewable interests against us, we will just give you the money to do nothing and be conflicted out from representing clean energy. You know, if you've got unlimited resources, those are the kind of tactics you deploy.
energy company that Brian used to work for is Exelon, which operates in 48 states. I asked them about their lobbying practices. They responded in an email saying, "We have never employed a strategy to prevent other stakeholders from finding adequate representation or having their voices heard."
Slamming the door off.
And Governor Sandoval claims that lobbyists have no influence on him.
I don't think so. I mean, there's no bigger champion of rooftop solar and renewable energy than me.
So how can he stand by and watch his appointees engineer the industry's demise?
They're my appointees, but it's very important to emphasize they're an independent board. They're a quasi-judicial board. It would be improper and perhaps illegal for me to interfere with their process. But we need to back up. I mean, this whole...
I spoke to a woman named Rita Rizvi.
Rita?
Who also worked at Exelon the same time Brian did, but in the sales division.
That's correct. We were both there.
She confirmed Brian's story.
What stood out to me was just the scale. How they would hire tons of lobbyists to lock solar out of entire states. I remember a large omnibus energy bill out of Illinois.
And Brian's story about buying up lobbyists in a state capital, that was Springfield, Illinois. I spoke to a lobbyist who was there at the time. He asked to remain anonymous.
You've seen it.
Yeah, oftentimes a utility will hire a number of lobbyists to do a very, very small amount of work. And what that means is that it becomes difficult for a renewable energy company to find a lobbyist who isn't already contracted out, and that hamstrings the industry.
Brian said he was awed at the extent of Exelon's political influence. How is solar supposed to compete with that? And how are we all supposed to beat back climate change if people in places like this can't afford to put solar panels on their roofs?
So much of India lives the way we did before our own industrial revolution. But that's changing fast. This country is becoming an economic powerhouse, running headlong into the 21st century, and there's no stopping it. Iqbal introduces me to a company out here trying to bring light to the 300 million Indians living without power.
OMC is a private company, and we generate power, and we sell this to businesses and to families, the homes that you see around here. And we use mostly solar.
This is not a very big solar array.
No, it's not, but it is actually enough to power about 200 homes. You know, we need all the energy we can get in India.
How many of these do you have around the country?
Right now, we have about 70 of them in and around the state, and we're building at the rate of one such plant every day.
One a day?
Yeah.
Well, you're very busy then.
We're pretty busy. You know, the entire community around here is deprived, right? There is pretty much no power.
You've become a neighborhood utility.
I like that term, the neighborhood utility, because that's exactly what we are.
We can talk about you using that later.
You know, 45 days after we started, we signed up our first customer.
If that's it, if that's all it takes, you know, sign me up. Did you bring some stuff that I can sign?
Did you get your checkbook?
Yes, I do. Next, they show me how they store power at night when the sun goes down. And they have plans for expansion. And they tell me business was the inspiration, not charity. For years, Anil worked in the telecom business where he had the idea to power cell towers with solar instead of diesel. It worked so well, he ended up with surplus electricity, and then he realized he could also start bringing solar power to the people. It's not a high-tech operation, but it gets the job done. Hundreds of other companies have similar operations. Mini power plants, not connected to the grid, which bring solar power to villages that for decades have had to rely on dirty forms of energy.
So she's saying, this has been a transformation because earlier she used to run her life on a little kerosene lamp. And when the power finally came to her home, it changed her life. And the kids can study to 12 and to 1 o'clock at night. It's an amazing story because she's a widow. And she's supporting, this entire family, putting the kids through school.
And that was the motivation to get the solar hookup.
Yeah, that's right. So
her children could study.
Yeah.
Could I ask her a question? Did it give you more confidence when you realized at night you could read and study? And things easier now in school?
और आसान है स्कूल में पढ़ने की लिखने आसान है ना. This is a lot easier.
What can you say about this? It's
the transformative power of a single light bulb.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yes, and never better illustrated than here, I think. The family gets 12 hours of power each day at a price they can afford. Just $2 a month. I'm wondering if every village in this country had its own solar array, then maybe India could simply bypass new coal plants.
I met up again with David Crane, the former head of a huge, dirty energy company who developed a passion for solar.
All right, so I went to Nevada.
You did?
And it was terrible.
I wanted to talk to him about the ruling in Nevada that just shut down the growing rooftop solar market.
So how big of a setback is this to the solar movement in Nevada and in the country?
Well, this is a huge setback because, in one way, because it provides a blueprint for the opponents, the utilities. Okay, we rolled it back in Nevada, we can go around and roll it back in other states, which of course puts the solar industry on its back heels because these are young companies, and to spend their resources fighting these utilities is a drain on them. But the other thing is that Wall Street then loses confidence in them because Wall Street doesn't like industries that are subject to regulatory whims, that you have a business in one state one day and the next day it's gone. That's terrible from your investor's perspective.
So you were the head of a major energy company, and you fought for solar power, right?
That's right. And I don't know exactly why I got fired, but I think the reason I'm sitting at this bar today not working is because what we were doing in home solar, there is still a concern on Wall Street that it's really a viable industry because of some of the issues that we're talking about, which is just shockingly ironic to me, because if you can put solar on the roof of your house, make your own electricity cheaper than you could buy from the grid, have a bit of grid independence for when the wires go down, and enhance the property value of your house while keeping the globe from melting. What informed American homeowner is not going to do that? It is the game changer in the power industry, and that's why it's so important to the consumer and such a threat to the powers that be. And the way that the utilities fight these battles is just old-fashioned NRA type. If you're with me, I will give you money, and if you're against me, I will fund your opponent and you'll lose your
Try
job.
my utilities from my cold dead hands. Where is it the worst? The absolute worst?
Well, there's only one place that you have to go to the Sunshine State. You have to go to Florida.
What?
The utility down there, Florida Power and Light, is the undefeated reigning heavyweight champion of preventing solar from coming into their territory.
Wow. In the Sunshine State.
In the Sunshine State. You'll have to see for yourself. It's quite remarkable.
So I took his advice and went to Florida. Oh, a snowman. Oh, well, who says the climate isn't changing?
The good thing about a country with a booming economy is that many people finally have access to the things that we take for granted. The bad thing is that it all comes at a price, and in the case of India, it means the need for more energy. A lot more energy. What is the government's plan for all this? Today I get to ask India's Minister of Energy, Piyush Goyal.
Minister Goyal, Dave Letterman.
Nice to meet you.
Great pleasure to meet you. Let me just say, you are immaculately dressed.
Is that so?
This is beautiful. You are one slick dude. Yeah.
But my wife would like to hear that, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you very much.
Come.
You want some of these?
No, they can give it to it.
The idea of 1.5 billion people, will they receive their electricity via solar, or will we still be using coal here?
Of course we'll be using coal.
Still using coal.
That's our basic load.
Right.
So the power will flow from coal, and all renewable sources will supplement it.
But if coal is used parallel to the other goals, solar, renewable sources, how do we improve the climate?
Well, for starters, we could have the developed world very seriously look at their consumption of electricity and possibly stop having all that waste that we are seeing. I can show you some pictures from around the world. You name the city and I'll show it to you. Look at office buildings. This is at maybe midnight or 2 o'clock in the night. Every light is on, not a single person working.
I live in New York City. I know this to be true.
You want to see the New York City, Manhattan?
I see it every day.
You want to see the street lights right outside the White House? I can show it to you. Street lights running in the day hours. And you imagine the angst a person like me feels.
I understand.
When I'm being told that, you stop using coal.
Right.
But we have a right to waste electricity.
Sure. By the way, is this an active runway? Just a thought. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It should be. I don't know. There's nobody from the airport.
No, we're fine. I'm not worried about it. You don't
we have
worry
no choice.
Let's
have a look at this.
Here we go.
The minister says we're out here to see how India is implementing a big push on solar energy.
If all countries in the world help with capital to invest, help us with modern technology, help us keep these costs low. In the last 2 years alone, we've been able to bring down the price of solar power by about 35 to 40%.
Yes.
Now, if the whole world joins hands,
right,
we can bring it down further.
Now
and it'll be a win-win for everybody.
Well, see, now here I see this and my pessimism diminishes.
We plan to replace 770 million incandescent bulbs with LED bulbs and 35 million street lights. It's going to reduce carbon dioxide emission by 80 million tons a year.
80 million
tons.
And you get that done, the
in 3
schedule
years.
is, I thought like a weekend.
2019. It's not all that difficult if people work together, support each other's initiatives. I don't see any difficulty in making it happen.
The minister tells me this solar installation is just one small part of a much bigger plan. They're trying to squeeze solar fields on every available plot of land possible. And back in the hotel, I see he's not kidding. Prime Minister Modi is planning to build the largest solar array in the world. He intends to increase India's solar capacity 10 times over in just the next 6 years, installing everything from large scale to rooftop to solar covering everything from canals to cricket fields. Wow, this country has the will to go solar. Back home, it feels like all we do is argue about renewable energy.
Is it really possible that the Sunshine State could be worse than Nevada when it comes to rooftop solar? Turns out, yes. Here in Florida, people are only allowed to buy their power from utilities, not from independent solar companies.
I'm super excited that we're all here. This is about choice, consumers having the right to choose solar power.
Fill this out, your name.
I see that there are people here fighting to change that.
Hey, do you guys have a second to sign a solar petition? So this is to give Floridians more access to solar power. We're trying to get on the ballot next November. Thank you so much.
I set up a meeting with Alyssa Jean Schaefer, a young activist from Floridians for Solar Choice. Maybe she can explain to me what's happening.
So you guys, as this coalition, you're collecting signatures on a pro-solar ballot initiative. And the energy companies, how's the response been? Have they started going after you?
Yes, I was actually at a solar conference and all of a sudden, my phone started blowing up and it was like, what's going on? The power companies, a whole group of them, had posted a link on Twitter basically announcing at this press conference that, well, we're gonna do a ballot initiative too. And it was, they took part of our name and they called themselves Consumers for Smart Solar. So basically the whole point of that is to confuse people. The utility-backed initiative talks about solar choice but doesn't actually give people any choices.
So just to be super clear, you guys started a pro-solar petition and the energy companies created an anti-solar petition that looks like a pro-solar petition.
Exactly.
And its sole purpose is to trick people.
Yes, I have them. Just looking at these side by side, which one would you sign?
The green one, sponsored by the utilities, looks pro-solar, but actually does nothing to open up the market to solar companies like Sunrun. It would keep everything the same. Could this actually be fooling people? I asked Alyssa to take me canvassing for some signatures so I could see for myself.
We're going to show you 2 ballot initiatives. So which one would you sign if you wanted to see more solar in Florida?
I've seen the green one.
You have seen that?
Yeah.
Do you know who's behind this?
I have no clue.
The energy companies.
Power companies, yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't want more solar. So they created this to trick people, and then they're paying people to talk to you like outside of buildings and stuff.
And it's happening. I saw it. And you're just standing there and looking at it. Oh, it sounds something positive, so I'll just do it.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
It's eye-opening.
Even a Florida Supreme Court justice wrote that the utility-backed petition was masquerading as pro-solar. I tried numerous times to reach Florida Power and Light, but they declined to speak to me. Who's going to win this battle?
I was told that if I wanted to see how the U.S. will play a part in India's energy future, I should come here. A coal power plant, believe it or not, erected right in the middle of Delhi. Mr. Ambassador.
Hey, nice to meet you, Dave.
Nice to meet you. I love the movie set apocalyptic on the one side of the railroad tracks. On the other side of the railroad tracks, this wonderful solar field. This is the problem and how we conquer it.
This is now probably the single biggest pathway of our cooperation between the U.S. and India in the years ahead, the clean energy space.
Over 400 companies. A lot of companies from U.S. Are here in India working very actively.
I think what's really exciting is that this has caught hold here in a way that it never has before.
What are the challenges ahead here?
To meet the target that India has set just in solar, the financing challenge is about $100 billion.
Wow.
It's $100 billion of private capital, of government money, of India's resources. So a huge challenge in getting that business climate right to actually attract that investment.
In terms of jobs, do the equation for us. What does this represent?
We bring solar panels from Perrysburg, Ohio, from First Solar, inverter technology from Colorado, in Denver. So we end up creating a lot of manufacturing jobs in the United States.
So some of these panels are made in Ohio.
So some of these panels are made
It's remarkable.
It's a great part.
The United States is not donating time, equipment, raw materials. Everybody makes money.
Absolutely. Look, it's good for national security reasons. It's good to combat climate change. It's good for economic development reasons here in India, but also in the United States.
When I first got here, I saw nothing but problems. And if you start examining the problems, they all become opportunity.
Absolutely.
I mean, overwhelming opportunity.
We're really optimistic about this space. We're really optimistic about the way the U.S. and India have come together to tackle this challenge.
It gives me optimism, too, but I can't help but think of all of the billions of dollars it's going to take to make this happen. Tomorrow, I'm meeting the Prime Minister. Perhaps he can tell me the plan.
As rooftop solar grows in popularity, utilities continue to fight it tooth and nail. There are currently challenges in over half the states in the country. And a lot of these fights are now taking place in these obscure public utility commissions. I still haven't been able to talk to anyone who's been on one of these commissions. Then I discovered Nancy Argenziano, a former Republican chairwoman of the Florida Public Service Commission. She made waves when she stood up to the utilities.
And I am going to move to amend the motion on the floor, whether it's accepted or it's not.
When Florida Power and Light asked for a $1.3 billion rate increase, Argenziano and her colleagues voted against it. Reports surfaced that the utility was orchestrating a smear campaign. An ethics complaint was filed against Argenziano. FP&L denied involvement. However, the person who signed the complaint later admitted it was bogus. She had been promised a job in exchange for her signature on a blank complaint form.
I've seen some examples of what Florida Power and Light's capable of. And what did they do to you?
I guess I had a reputation of being a consumer advocate, and they didn't like fair. Fair wasn't good enough, so they employed all kinds of tactics, hiring attorneys that filed fake ethics complaints. They acted like thugs. And growing up in Brooklyn, I could tell you what a thug is.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't believe here's a corporation trying to remove sitting commissioners for doing their job. But that's exactly what they did. We were going to go for reappointment after our 4-year term. And in the history of Florida, they've been reappointed over and over and over again, except for us. So the public has no public service commission, and it's not fair by any means.
I mean, what's so frustrating is in Florida, you're the sunniest state ignoring the sun.
Exactly. The sunshine state, and you're not allowed to provide energy through sunshine. Now, if you had a solar industry or an alternative industry that had the money like these government-backed monopolies do, possibly you'd see some change.
I admire so much people I've met that are not giving up the battle because it's so difficult, and it just seems like, how do you?
Because if you give up, then we give it all to them. So you have to stay involved. Give if you can. If you're a person who really wants to do it for the right reasons, go there and do it. So silly. I'm sorry.
It's not silly.
I'm sorry. I'll pull it together. It just brought back all of that. You can't go up there and do good. They won't let you. And I understand the rule of politics and the bending here and there, but you don't sell out to this degree. You know that solar energy is good for the state of Florida. You know that it will bring jobs. You know that it's a whole new industry and it's the right way to go. How could you sit back and pretend?
You know what happens if we don't.
Exactly. Biggest cost is to our future, and time is running out.
I left Nevada and Florida feeling disillusioned. But back in my home state of New York, where it's cold and gray, it appears using the sun is okay. I'm headed to meet with Richard Kaufman, New York's energy czar, and Peter Claro, the COO of a restaurant supply store that's powered by solar.
This is all solar.
It runs about 40% of our building.
How much would you say you've saved?
30 to 35% of our annual spending.
Wow.
In New York, it's different than some sunny weather states.
Because you have facilities in Florida.
We have almost a dozen facilities in Florida.
You do, and you can't do this there.
Because of government policy.
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense right now.
Wow.
in New York State. It's one of the fastest growing job creators in the state. And it's also increasingly what individuals and communities and businesses want.
How did this all come about? The governor here, Andrew Cuomo, made climate change a top priority. So he created incentives for the utilities and renewable companies to work together.
How have these utility companies dealt with it?
So I give the utilities a lot of credit. We want them, and they are, working in partnership with the solar industry. What we've tried to do is to create an opportunity for, frankly, everybody to win. It's happening. It's happening already in New York. And once we can show that this is something that works, we would expect that other states will support this.
Governor Cuomo hopes to provide enough solar by 2023 to power 400,000 homes. But in other places, change is slow. Alyssa's pro-solar group was handily defeated by the utilities, which spent millions on their campaign. But Alyssa is still hopeful. And so am I. California, Arizona, North Carolina, and other states are going gangbusters on rooftop solar. Imagine if every state could follow their lead.
My last stop in India is a visit with the leader of the largest democracy on earth. Thank goodness I brought a suit. Thank you for allowing us this time. The relationship of India with the United States of America, what is your view of that?
आज दुनिया जो है वो कोई देश आइसोलेटेड नहीं रह सकता. पूरी दुनिया इंटरडिपेंडेंट है. लेकिन क्लाइमेट ये हम सबकी सामूहिक जिम्मेवारी है.
Tell me more about yourself. Where did you grow up? What kind of a kid were you?
गरीबी में पला, लेकिन स्पिरिचुअल एक्टिविटी में इंटरेस्ट था. बड़ा प्रकृति को प्रेम करता था. तो जवानी के कुछ महत्वपूर्ण वर्ष उसमें बिता दिए.
What is fascinating to me is the combination of politics and a spiritual motivation.
महात्मा गांधी, और वो हमेशा कहते थे हम लोग ट्रस्टी हैं, और ट्रस्टी के नाते हमारा काम है सब चीज़ों का, प्रकृति का, पर्यावरण का. हम मालिक नहीं है. हम हमारी आने वाली पीढ़ी को क्या देंगे. आज मैं जो कुछ भी उपयोग कर रहा हूँ वो उधारी ले रहा हूँ मेरी भावी पीढ़ी से.
People have told me anywhere between 300 and 400 million Indians do not have electricity, and the population over 1 billion now, and will in a few years be 1.5 billion. Does it bother you spiritually that the coal will be used to help electrify the entire country? Will they have to get their electricity from coal until the entire solar project is complete?
उनको बिजली की ज़रूरत है, मिलनी चाहिए. उनके जो एस्पिरेशंस हैं वो पूरे होने चाहिए, और ये हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी है. लेकिन नॉट एट द कॉस्ट ऑफ द नेचर. लेकिन दुनिया अगर मुझे टेक्नोलॉजिकल हेल्प करे, दुनिया हमें रिसोर्स, तो मैं पहला इंसान रहूँगा जो कोल को इस प्रकार से क्लीन एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट करने पर बल दूंगा. जब तक वो मैं नहीं कर पाता तो मैं और कोई रास्ता सोच सकता हूँ?
Prime Minister Modi is overseeing one of the greatest renewable energy plans ever devised. Yet when it comes to getting investment capital to build it, he's coming up short. And when the Prime Minister talks about other ways to provide energy, he's talking about burning twice as much coal by 2030. And that, frankly, scares the hell out of me. Will the world help India get off coal and onto solar? I wonder how many people back home know how much is riding for them on the answer to that question.
Oh, wow, you're looking good.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. From around here? This is what I'm looking for. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. Not just for this, but all of your time and all of your knowledge. Thank you very much.
It was such a pleasure being with you.
Here in America, we're certainly not as ambitious as India is in cleaning up the way we make energy. So maybe we need to get our own house in order and also find the political will to help countries like India leapfrog fossil fuels to a cleaner future. I know it's not much, but I am trying to shrink my own carbon footprint.
These things working? Did you ever get them plugged in?
Do we want our children one day to say to us, wait a minute, you knew this was a problem and you ignored it? But to really fix it, it's going to require all of us and every country to do much, much more.